So welcome to ProfileTree TV, and today we're joined by Nick Mason from Turtl. So thank you very much for taking time out to join us today.
Hi, nice to be here.
Excellent. So you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about your own background and the company as well?
Yep. So my own background is actually in science. So I was always interested in science from a relatively young age. And I went and I did that at university. I did a maths and physics degree. And you come out from doing that and you've got kind of one or two options that most of my contemporaries seem to do. Is you either go into finance, like do investment banking and things like that, I think, or you be a mad scientist. And neither of those particularly appealed to me. So I kind of always interested in computers as well. So I kind of taught myself to program and, doing websites for people, making applications, doing stuff like that. And I did that for, as a consultant for around 6 or 7 years. For different companies, and kind of developed skills, worked on different platforms, did some design, did mobile apps, all that kind of stuff. But where I kept coming back to was people kept asking me to work on products for them. So there was various ones for people like LexisNexis, University of Oxford Medical Sciences. I ended up always doing products, so that was kind of my background. I kind of fell into doing that, I suppose. In terms of the business, where Turtl came from. I was doing the product for Oxford Medical Sciences, and you bump into some really interesting people doing this, and particularly from the psychology and psychiatry departments. And they shared some really interesting stuff into how we read and how we process information and how we remember, and how we kind of understand what we're reading and how the brain works, which was fascinating. And at the same time, a lot of my friends who were doing marketing were speaking about content marketing and saying, "Oh, we're really ramping up content marketing. It's great, etc., etc." And then I'd say, "Okay, cool. We'll send me over some of this content marketing," and they'd send over a PDF, and I'd kind of say, "Well, this is just a PDF. This isn't interesting or new. This is just a PDF, and I hate reading PDF." And so the feedback that you get back when you say awkward comments like that is, "Okay, we'll go and do something better." And so taking the kind of the psychological stuff that I learned a little bit about at Oxford and supplementing that with some of my own research, started to make some prototypes for the software, and grew it from there, and just kept working on it really over about kind of a year or 18 months just in my spare time. And then you start showing it to people and people show it to other people, and then someone came back and said, "Well, how much does this cost?" And you kind of think, well, I don't know. I never really thought about that. It was just a bit of fun. But then that's the point at which you start to think, okay, well, maybe this is something that I should take more seriously. And so that's where we came from.
Amazing. Excellent. So you're focused on content. So content is something that I live and breathe, and we're very passionate about here. And when we seen your company, we were very excited to talk to you and thought it'd be very interesting to have a chat. So how do you create content, or what does your platform do?
Okay, so it does several things. I mean, where we really, I guess, okay. So specifically what we do is we have a format, which is a proprietary format that we've developed, which is based on this psychology. And what it does is it lets you read in a kind of a more natural, more immersive way. So rather than reading online, where typically you've got one of two options, you're either reading a PDF and you're scrolling up and down to find the columns and you're zooming in and out to try and work out what the hell the thing is, because fundamentally it's an offline document that's been put online, and there's all the jokes about, your PDF is portrait, your screen is landscape. This doesn't work. Or you're reading in a scrolling format, and there's various reasons why that's not great. Very briefly, you run out of memory as you go down. You need to be able to chunk the thing. There's no real topology to the page. It's just, it all looks the same. And so, the various drawbacks that there exist with kind of conventional formats, we have a format which kind of circumvents those and works in a better way. And we believe it's a far more natural way to read and far more effective online. And so, that's the first thing that we do. And by using that format in A/B trials, we typically improve metrics by, anywhere up to 7 times. And that's in terms of, share rates, average read times, all kinds of stuff across the board. So that's the first thing that we do. And then the second thing, which kind of feeds into that, is that we allow anyone to create stuff in that format, to create content. So you don't need to be a designer. You don't need to be a developer. You don't need to know how to use InDesign or Illustrator or write code or do anything like that. You just go in and you create. And this is really powerful because, for some of our customers, we've got upwards of 100 licenses with them. And these are not technical or design people, but they're going in and they're making great stuff in a format that's going to perform better. The third and final thing that we do then is we provide really great analytics around that. So again, we have analytics Adobe advert actually. I don't know if you know it, with the kid clicking on the button. This company thinks they're doing really well and they start ramping up production, but it cuts back and it's just a kid like pressing the iPad because he likes the noise. And so that's the kind of effect that you get if you don't have proper analytics. You don't know what you're doing, right? And so we provide really detailed analytics that let you see exactly what's performing, where people are clicking, where they're dropping off, where they're spending time, where they're not, at an aggregate level and also often at an individual level. So this is great if you're using it to do ABM, or if you're in a sales team, because you can see, well, I sent this document to 10 people and they all read it. This guy read it for 5 minutes and focused on the pricing page, so he's going to be interested in the finance. This guy read for 5 minutes, but he was more interested in product features. So when you go into your next sales meeting, you know who you're talking to and what they're interested in. So those are really the three things. It's around a better reading format that performs better, that anyone can create and anyone can see how it performed and improve their performance next time.
Incredible. So, and how important then is the visual aspect of the content you create? Is it an important part of the content itself?
Very important. I mean, there's a guy, Marshall McLuhan, who is a really interesting guy, and he has a famous pronouncement or saying, which is the medium is the message. And what he means by that is that, the way in which you transmit the message fundamentally affects the way in which that message is received. And there's all kinds of research that I can bore you with, providing examples of that, as you can imagine. But to give a couple of very quick examples, 3M did a study in the late 1970s where they took a PowerPoint presentation, which was just words. And this was like presenting an argument, like a point of view. And they showed that to a bunch of people, and they asked how many people at the end were persuaded to agree with the point of view. And there was a particular percentage. Then they redid that, exactly the same argument, exactly the same points, but using contextual imagery as well as the text. And they found that an additional 50% of people were in agreement with the argument at the end versus the text-only version. So no change to the logic, no change to the flow, no change to anything, just using images to kind of support and contextualize the argument. So that's one example of why visuals are so important, and our platform kind of plays really heavily on that. And we want to move away from big static blocks of text into something more engaging, more interactive, and more visually appealing.
Incredible. Amazing to think how important it is, and a lot of people wouldn't actually know that, but even when you sit back and think of it, and I consume a lot of content, and without a doubt, if it's visually appealing, you're gonna spend more time. You're actually going to be attracted and maybe give it a go. You might actually look at it, and that's probably one of the challenges we have as a content marketing agency, dealing with so many different websites and so many different types of content, is how do you make it visually appealing? And you're right, the design element is a tough part. If you have to keep customizing design, it can be time consuming. So interesting. So I can see where your product fits in.
Yeah. It's it's interesting what you say about managing all this content across different websites and stuff. I mean, that's very typical. That what we find with customers, one of the first things that we have to do is kind of help them repurpose a whole load of existing stuff, because typically if they do measure it, they measure it quite badly. So they might know how many hits, but they don't really know which bits people read or which bits were resonating. And moving some of those key pieces over into this different format is a nice way to show this is before, this is after, and these are the benefits that you've got from doing that. So it's kind of I can relate a lot to these kind of mountains of PDFs and scrolling text web pages that are hard to manage.
Amazing. And obviously, as we share a very a passion for content, but would you have a view on why content writing and content as a process is important for businesses?
Yeah, because it's a way to get closer to people without being so direct. So when it's done well, content is like you're talking with someone rather than kind of talking at them. So rather than just saying, this is what we do, these are our benefits, this is our product, do you want to buy it or do you not want to buy it? You kind of get alongside them and show that you understand the same things that they understand, and you like the same things that they like, and you start to teach them things, and you get into the position where you're kind of people use this very corny expression, trusted advisor, like of that person. And so if you're writing about the stuff they're interested in and giving them ideas and tips and stuff like that, then it's a very natural thing to buy from you. So that's why I think it's so effective, and more businesses continue to spend more and more time and money on it.
Amazing. And you mentioned psychology. So psychology plays an important part then in content marketing as well?
Yeah, well, realistically at the moment, I don't think enough is enough emphasis is placed on it. Obviously, I mean, that's why we exist. Because I think that, fundamentally with content and with all marketing, actually, you're trying to persuade people and you're trying to influence people. And there's an awful lot of good research and thinking out there, which explains how you do that effectively. And it's a science. And, if you read about it, then you can be better informed. You can make better decisions, which will allow you to influence people in the way that you want them to be influenced. And what happens a lot of the time is that trends happen and things emerge, and people kind of cotton on and jump on the bandwagon without really understanding that there is a good psychological reason why this thing works. So, good example of that is like social media and social proof, and, the reviews and review products that help you, that's rooted in psychology, because we like to feel like, we aren't an outlier. We like to feel like we're doing the thing that everyone else does. So that's kind of one small example, but there's a shopping list of things that you can do psychologically, which I think can be applied and should be applied to content marketing in particular.
Incredible. And you use analytics a lot in what you do, because obviously that's your proof point. So how do you use analytics to be more effective, or how should content marketers use analytics to be more effective?
Well, I think one of the things that we kind of say to people when we're first talking to them is, you're sending content out, and say you're doing it by email, right? And you might know open rates and click-through rates. And that doesn't actually tell you anything if you think about it. That tells you about the envelope, right? And it tells you who opened the envelope and who took the thing out, maybe. But it doesn't tell you who read it, or what they liked about it, or what they didn't like about it. So you know a lot about the envelope, but nothing about the message inside. And even customers that we have who have web analytics, typically it's so complicated and so messy and all over the place. You can see what's performing well, but you actually have to go to quite a lot of effort to pull out like proper trends and see what's working and where you should focus your effort. So the approach that we take is that our analytics are really simple to understand. And we break it down by page and by element, and everything you can see. If you make a piece, you can see how every single element is performing. And it allows you to do stuff like, this is kind of an example of how you can change your behavior. The Economist, customer of ours, and the day that Brexit happened, no one really expected that, as you may remember. So what the Economist team did is they got in really early and they made a piece, and the piece contained 5 or 6, 7, 8 different topics, and they were looking to get subscribers and looking to get people interested. And they could see after an hour the bits that people were reading and the bits that they weren't reading, where they were engaging, where they weren't engaging, on a kind of forensic level. And what they discovered, interestingly enough, is no one cared about the financial implications, no one cared about the economic implications, free movement, all of these things. What people cared about was how the pollsters got it so wrong. That's what they were really interested in. And so they honed this story over the course of the day, looking at the content, updating it in real time. Again, can't really do that with a PDF. You can do it with a web page, I guess. And in the end, they were generating, I don't remember the statistics, but significantly longer read time, significantly greater levels of engagement, and generating more signups. And so a piece that would have previously just gone out and then on to the next thing was a living document that they iterated over the course of a day or 2 days, I don't remember, and got great results. And that's the power of kind of analytics, joined with the ability for people to easily update and change things.
No, I can see how powerful it is, because we're all making just assumptions and looking at search terms, and we actually don't have that data. That's incredible. So what type of clients do you normally work with as a company?
So it tends to be larger enterprises. So we've got people like, as I say, The Economist, Cisco, Bloomberg, the kind of, larger end of things. But then we do work with some smaller companies as well. But it typically tends to be at the upper end. So like Baker McKenzie, BMP, those kinds of guys, because, typically if we go into them and say, we can show you all this data and free up your design team and do all these things, it's super attractive for them. And we've also taken the route of, as a startup, I guess flipping it around, talking about something else. As I see it, you kind of got a couple of options available to you. Either you give away a large chunk of your company for a large amount of money and go after the lower end of the market early, which is perfectly fine, or you try and live on your own for a little bit longer. And we've taken the second route, and so obviously it's attractive to go after those bigger companies because they pay bigger bills, and it's less of a dent on your cash flow initially, because typically If you're going after the SME market, you can expect to spend around 12 months revenue per customer in acquiring that customer, which obviously creates huge cash flow issues. So we took that kind of large enterprise first. And it's helpful as well, because when you've got a few names like Cisco or whatever, you can go after DXC and Capita and these sorts of people, and it all starts to flow. So that's the route that we've taken, and we'll see how that
amazing. No, good strategy. I think we're pivoting towards that strategy ourselves at the moment.
Okay. There you go.
I think you hit the nail on the head there, without a doubt. So could you talk us through a little bit of the starting of your business and how you've got to where you are today? Because obviously we're all interested, we're all business owners and trying to plot our journey. So it'd be interesting to hear your experience.
So I mean, as I say, it started off as something where, just being curious about things and trying to improve something that looked like it could be improved. And, that's where we got started. I think in early 2015, we signed our first customer. Then we got some seed money. It was actually really interesting. So we went in to pitch to a particular company, and we didn't get it. They didn't want to buy the product, but luckily they wanted to buy into the business. So that was nice. So we didn't walk out with the signed license, but we walked out with some investors. So we got a relatively small amount of seed money, and we started to hire a couple of people. We just kind of grew organically for a few years, really. And the idea was, instead of going out all guns blazing and spending a whole lot of money, was to spend time refining the product, understanding the market a bit better, working out how we need to sell, what we need to be doing, what the pricing is, what we might want to have as a roadmap going forwards, where we see. So we spent a fair bit of time doing that. And then about September, time flies, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. September 2017, we decided, we've got a decent bank of customers. We know what we're doing. We know how the market works. We know how we sell. We know where we win. We know where we lose. We know a bit more. So we started to pursue growth more aggressively, and we did a larger fundraising round in summer of 2018, which was great. We got a great new chairman, which is a great help, and we got the money that we need to plow into the business to now start growing. So it's kind of interesting times, kind of growing quickly and trying to keep all the bits together.
Incredible. And how important was it bringing in the extra expertise? Did you find it helped the business?
Yeah, invaluable, absolutely invaluable. Like the biggest thing that I've learned is I'm the sort of person who always tries to do things myself. And I always like to get my hands dirty. But the thing that I've learned is that you obviously, it sounds obvious, but you have to learn it. You just cannot do that. And so what's great is that all of the people in the business, and it gives me great pleasure to say, know a lot more about everything than I do. And so that's a nice position to be in, because you can give advice and you can try and make sure that things stick together. But fundamentally, if our sales director says we need to be doing this, okay, I trust you. You go and you do that. And so having those people is I think the single most important thing. And again, sorry for waffling, but I saw a YouTube video actually. I can't remember who it was, but he was like a VC, connected to a VC or private equity or something. And he reviewed 100 businesses that or maybe more, that they had invested in. And he ranked them all on 5 things. And it was on things like team, and on timing, and on product, and on blah, 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 blah. And then he ranked their success. And he looked at which of those factors that he ranked them on, where the high scores correlated in terms of, being successful. And number 1 was timing. So if you've got the right idea at the right time, that's your luck, I guess. You can make that happen. But the second one was team. Above product and above anything else, the second thing that correlated best was team. And that's definitely been my experience. Is having the best people who you can get on board as early as you can is great. You need that.
Incredible. So what's next then? How do you see content marketing developing out? It's amazing. I'm jealous of all the enterprises that have tools like your own. But how do you see the content sector and the content industry develop over the next couple of years?
It's really interesting. So what I think, and what other people think, who I've been listening to recently, is people will realize that constantly going for quantity, which is what a lot of businesses seem to do, isn't the smart thing, because there are more and more people doing more and more content more and more often. And, every piece that you create has a diminishing impact in that environment, right? Because it's crowded and you need air. And so I think that people will shift to higher quality stuff, and spending more time on fewer pieces and investing resources more in a more focused way. And obviously, in order to do that, you need the analytics to be able to see exactly what's working and what's not. And so moving from kind of a scattergun approach into something a lot more refined and a lot more targeted, I think is what will happen. And what's interesting is I've seen quite a few people talking about this recently at events and saying everyone was so enamored with marketing technology, and they realized that they can do everything at scale, and everyone's kind of jumped on that bandwagon and done that. And now my understanding is that a lot of people have some kind of regret in terms of the amount of money they've invested in that direction, and they've worked out, well, yes, I can say loads of things to loads of different people, but what am I saying? And is that actually valuable? And so I think people will go back to something, much more along the lines of, what story am I telling? How am I going to tell it in a high quality way, in a way that resonates and that makes sense and that I can actually see what's working?
Absolutely incredible. I have to say that your thought of how it's going to go is actually shared by myself.
Good.
So I've been in content marketing since 2010, actively publishing content, and I've seen the industry change dramatically. And we would have went exactly as you said, get as much content out, hit as many keywords, get as many eyeballs on the content as possible. And actually, probably it's only been recently, last year, we made a decision for ourselves and also working with our clients is actually to change the strategy and really focus on the content and really quality, probably long form pieces to provide the ultimate value. And I can see us over this year, the next 12 months, continuing that process where hopefully in 12 months time, we will be at the stage where we can actually say, okay, we are definitely 100% in that space where we are just publishing content that we believe people will, our ideal customers will always just want to read and consume, as opposed to just being greedy and trying to catch all the traffic and looking at the right metrics. It's very important to do that. It's incredible. And the cost, as you say, the cost of production, and then it's not only that, people publish content, and you know this better than anyone. You publish content and you set it and leave it there and you never go back to it. But actually we find the values going back in 6 months and 9 months and refreshing and updating content. It gives you a better ROI, but it all costs time and money, and there's opportunity cost in all of this. So very, very interesting. We share the same view of that.
I mean, the things have changed, right? There was that survey, I can't remember. I don't have a great memory for these things, but it's something like, buyers get 60% of the way, or it might be more, 60, 70% of the way through their buying journey now before they even contact sales or have any kind of proactive interaction. Mm-hmm. And they're doing all of that through content, right? and reading about stuff. And there's some other statistic as well, which is, it's an incredibly high number of people who, if they have a bad content experience with a company, they won't buy from them. It's like a huge deciding factor, because everything now is done at, 60% of it at least is done at kind of arm's length. If that 60% is no good, they're going to go to your competitor. So, things are changing, and consumers are changing, and consumer buying behaviors are changing, and it's interesting. It's interesting.
So we're in the right sector without a doubt. So and content marketing is going to continue to explode, and we'll see what the future holds. Excellent. So would you have any final tips or advice for someone who's in the business journey and in a startup and looking for support, or even someone that's in and thinking of content marketing, a business owner that's thinking of content marketing, investing in content marketing? So two questions in one.
I think for business, for people wanting to start a business, I think that the most important thing is don't give up. And I think that a lot of the time, new things, people will say are stupid and wrong, because that's how people are. Like, at least some people are, some people, and it's just how people are, you come to realize. Some people just, if it's new and if they don't understand it and if they've not seen it before, they will just write it off and say it's ridiculous and what have you. But that doesn't mean that it's wrong. I'm always reminded of the Steve Ballmer interview after Apple announced the first iPhone, which, if you can find that on YouTube, you should definitely watch it. And he's just ridiculing this thing. And he's saying, whatever it was, $500, $700 for a phone that doesn't even have a keyboard, they're out of their minds. You fast forward a few years and Steve Ballmer's out of a job. So, you know, it's kind of interesting. People are not great at seeing those things sometimes. So yeah, don't give up, and also get good people around you. I would say the two most important things. In terms of content marketing, well, we've kind of said a lot of things, right? But I think that, you know, and obviously I'm biased, but looking for quality in what you do, and you know, taking the time to step back and think, not just in terms of what everyone else is talking about, but in terms of what you think is important as a business and where you want to steer the conversation. So the example I always give is, you know, going into customers, talking to them and saying, well, what kind of content are you making? And, you know, last year everyone was making a GDPR thing. And you kind of say, well, why are you doing it? Are you lawyers? Do you have a particular perspective on GDPR? Do you know anything that no one else knows? No, I don't know any of that, but that's what everyone's talking about, so we're going to talk about it. I just don't see the point of that. It's like, if you take the time to work out what you believe in and what you think is interesting and what you think is important, it's going to be much more unique, much more authentic, much more interesting, and you'll grow an audience, right? And they'll be loyal to you because you're telling them things that they don't know. So I would, my advice on content marketing would be to take that approach rather than just, we need to do content marketing, so let's start writing stuff.
No, totally agree again. Yeah, better to hit 5 or 6 topics that your customers or potential clients are going to resonate with and want to reach out and talk to you more about. Then, oh my word, GDPR. If I see another newsletter or advice on GDPR, I think I'd head for the hills. And, you know, half of the content, or probably more of it, was wrong anyway. All the
really?
advice, the delete email list and everything is like amazing. But
what doesn't surprise me.
Oh, no, enough said. Yeah, well, this is experts of GDPR writing about it. But anyways, it's part of the fun, and hopefully the market will continue to evolve and improve and change. So if anyone wants to see what you guys are doing, to find out more about your company or to reach out, what's the best place or best way for them to do that?
So the best way is probably through our website in the first instance, or you can email us, info@turtl.co, just .co. And we also go to a lot of events. So we're all around the UK. There's a page on our website which details the events we're going to be at. And we do. I mean, if anyone is interested in you know, a bit more about the psychology of how we you know, how we read and all that kind of stuff, we do like presentations on that at these events. So it's good to come along and see those if you're interested and have a chat with us. So yeah, website, events, or email, or social as well. Apparently I'm not big on social, but yeah, we're on Twitter, obviously. So yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you again for your time today and talking us through how important content is for businesses and what your company is doing to drive and improve content industry.
No, thank you. Really enjoyed it. Thanks.
Excellent. And thank you for watching today. This is another video from ProfileTree TV. Hopefully you enjoyed the education we got today, and we'll see you in tomorrow's video. So thank you for your time.